They've called him racist, sexist, but they've never called Doug Casey wrong. Find out why at incorrectbook.com.
Let's bring in Brett Tolman. He's a former U.S. attorney for Utah. He he knows, he lived it, what the federal government can do, because the Justice Department has to be in the lead here, since it's federal law. Immigration law is federal law. So first of all, Brett, President Trump can order regular troops to the border to block this migrant intrusion, correct?
The media doesn't seem to be giving the president any credit for viewing this accurately. And, if he was wrong, I'd say he was wrong. But the analysis is, do I want to use the National Guard or do I want to use the military? In order to use the National Guard, he has to work with states, sure, and people are saying, that the governors can stop it. That's not accurate. If the government federalizes the issue, which he's already done, he's indicated that this is a national emergency, then he has the ability to utilize, under statute, utilize the National Guard. If he works with Congress and he goes through a few other hoops, he could even use the current serving military to secure our border. I hear that every television station that seems to be critical of what action is or threat of action is being taken seems to be denying that that's possible. They're citing things like the Posse Comitatus law, which basically says you can't use the military to support law enforcement or to enforce federal law. It's not exactly accurate. President Obama sent over 1,000 people to the border. Nobody seems to be addressing that issue.
They were National Guards, though. The issue centers around whether the president can order, and I don't think he has to go through Congress to do this, order military units to the border by saying, we're under siege here. I don't think the word attack would be right, but we're under siege, and we have to protect our country, and here's the military. That's their mandate, to protect America, so I'm going to order them down, and they're going to stand there and deny anybody entrance to ask for asylum. I think that's the plan right now. Would there be a legal impediment to that plan?
Well, I do think that is the plan. I think they'll try first to utilize the National Guard, but and governors, Democratic governors, have said they'll stand in the way. I don't think that's going to be successful. They're going to fail there. The military themselves have indicated that if there is a siege, as you've described it, or a threat on our border, and let's back up and take a look at this. This is an actual potential siege of a border of the United States.
Right.
You're not going to be able to argue that the president of the United States can't use everything within his means to try to protect that border.
Right.
This is not 15 or 20 people. When I was U.S. attorney, I had folks that were seeking asylum. They get interviewed. You assess how accurate their allegations are. You try to verify it. You give them a hearing. And for the most part, these are often well-meaning people that are being attacked by their government, and we open our borders to them and say, we'll take care of you. We want you to be, become good citizens. Here, this is an orchestration of a 8,000 plus people. You don't know who's in that. You don't know, if I bring them in, have I immediately subjected my border to potential harm and risk?
And plus there are people who live down there and they can't detain them and all this. And people don't forget that in Haiti, when they had all the boat people coming over, the U.S. Coast Guard just turned them back. In Cuba, when the law was changed, it used to be if you were a Cuban and you put your hand on U.S. soil on the beach, you were in. They changed that law, okay? And the U.S. Coast Guard routinely in the Straits of Florida turned back Cubans who are floating into American waters. So this is not unprecedented, has been done, as you pointed out. President Obama, Bush the Younger, President Clinton, all did it. So there's no problem with that. Now, the perception is that we are a bad country, and this is part on the left, that we are inhumane. This is humanitarian crisis. But the crisis is in Honduras and El Salvador and Guatemala, not in America. It's in Africa. It's in South Asia. That's where the crisis is. We can't possibly regulate those governments But, you know, what do we have here in this poll? 65% of Democrats say, yeah, you know, let them all in. Does that surprise you?
It does surprise me. One of the more passionate speeches I ever heard on the subject was in 2009 by Senator Chuck Schumer.
Well, we lost Brett Tolman, one of those quirks of technology, because we're doing Skype stuff and all of that.